Hi, folks. This is Bill Johnson. Thanks a lot for joining us this evening. We've got a number of people that are trying to get into the call, so we're gonna wait just another minute or so to get started here. But thank you so much for joining us. Please don't hang up. We're going to get started here in just a minute. Thanks a lot. Stand by. Okay, well, good evening, everybody, and thanks again for joining me. As I mentioned just a few minutes ago, my name is Bill Johnson, and I'm running for Congress. Tonight I'm going to be conducting this live toll-free town hall right here over the phone, and if this is your first time participating in one of these town halls, let me give you an idea how it works. I'm going to be live here on the phone for the entire time. It will not be a staff member. It will be me conversing live with you. You'll be able to ask me any question you like by pressing 0 on your keypad on your phone, and from there you'll be placed into the question queue, and once you give us your question, then you'll be placed right back into the call. And as we go along in the call, I'm going to be asking you a couple of questions as well, just to sort of stimulate our conversation and keep us moving along. And you'll be able to respond to my questions by pressing the corresponding numbers on your keypad as well. Again, you can ask me a question about anything by simply pressing 0 on your keypad, and that starts right now. So if you already know what your question is, you can press 0 and we'll take your question. You know, these telephone town halls are a great way for you and me to have an honest and open dialogue about what's going on in America, what's going on in our region, what's going on in our state, and right here in your community where you live and work and play. It's also an opportunity for me to hear about the issues that are important to all of you. Because one thing, if you don't take away anything from this call tonight, I want you to remember this. I work for you. It's not the other way around. And my goal is to try and help solve problems. And to solve problems, that means you've got to listen to the problem. And that means you've got to understand the problem. And the only way that happens is that if I have a dialogue with you folks. So I really appreciate that you've all joined us. Tonight I'm going to start off by discussing some things that I've been asked a lot about recently as I travel up and down the district, things like jobs and the economy, how Obamacare is affecting the people who live here in eastern and southeastern Ohio, and the need for energy independence and what that energy independence will do and how that translates into more income and a higher quality of life and less out-of-pocket expenses for you, the taxpayer. So remember, you can ask me a question anytime by pressing 0 to get into the question queue. You know, you can also learn more about my position on the issues by visiting my website at www.billjohnsonleads.com. And before we get started, though, before we get into your questions, let me ask you a question, and then we'll get started. Which political party do you most accurately identify with? On your keypad, please press 1 for Republican, press 2 for Democrat, and press 3 for Independent. 1 for Republican, 2 for Democrat, and 3 for Independent. So we're going to go to our first caller right now, and we're going to talk to Jack down in Salem. How you doing, Jack?
Good. How are you, Bill?
I'm good. How are you, buddy?
Good. Bill, I'm concerned that with the way our president has acted over the last 6 years, and the number of times that he has broken the law or not used the Constitution correctly, I'm afraid that sometime in the future, lawmakers are going to say we need something to rein in a president like Barack Obama, which I'm not for that. But, you know, the guy is going just hog wild. I mean, he's a runaway president. And I think a lot of people don't realize this and don't realize how he's attacking our Constitution. And I'm kind of up in the air as what we do with this guy, because I don't think Congress wants to impeach him because they can't remove him. And I don't think they're going to impeach him and remove him even if the Senate goes Democrat. So I'm looking for some guidance here. It's a tough problem, I know. But go ahead.
Yeah, Jack, that's a very good question. You know, I hear that a lot, all up and down the district, and I can tell you that I'm as concerned as you are about this president's overreach and this president's, you know, he says all the time, I've got a telephone and I've got a pen. I don't need Congress. And we've seen that time and time again. And I'm as concerned about it as you are. The checks and balances within the American system works when both chambers of Congress, both the House and the Senate, do their job. And I can tell you, Jack, that we have tried very, very hard in the House of Representatives to rein this president in, both through budget actions, demanding a balanced budget, demanding that we repeal the health care law and put patient-centered solutions in place. And of course, I know you realize from seeing the news that we have and are continuing to conduct investigative actions on the Benghazi situation, on the IRS, you name it, on the rollout of the Affordable Care Act. And so we've got a lot to be concerned about. And I don't know if you know it or not, but we've actually filed a lawsuit against the president because of his overreach. It's the first time in history that the House of Representatives has done that. This is not about the president. This is not about Republicans or Democrats. This is about protecting the viability of the legislative branch, and because that's where the authority is supposed to be, and that's where the American people express their voice and their concern about what's going on in America. And that's how laws are supposed to be made, not by the president, not by the just whatever mood that you're in. You know, we're supposed to be a system of government that's run by the rule of law, not by the law of rules, where the president or whoever makes his mind up, decides to do whatever he wants to do. So, Jack, that's what's going on right now, is that we filed that lawsuit, and it's working its way through the system, and we'll see here within the next few months exactly what's going to happen. But until then, we don't know what the courts are going to do. This is the first time in history that the House of Representatives has ever done anything like this. So I appreciate your call, Jack. I really do. You're welcome. And by the way, if you'd like to ask a question, anyone, please press 0 on your keypad, and that will put you into the question queue, and we'll get right back to you. Folks, we are actually experiencing a little bit of a technical problem with the system right now, so please don't hang up, not going anywhere. but we gotta figure this out real quick. Stand by just 1 second. Okay, I think we got that resolved. Let's go to Bonnie. Bonnie, how are you? Bonnie, are you there? Well, apparently we've lost Bonnie. Folks, let me check and see what this technical problem is. I think our internet connectivity is going up and down. So let me check. I'll be right back with you. Stand by 1 second. Folks, I really apologize for this inconvenience, but we are for some reason we are experiencing technical difficulties. Please don't hang up. We're trying to work it out, but for some reason our internet connectivity has gone down, and we can't see any of your questions. But we're trying to work it out. So please stand by. This is Bill Johnson. Don't go anywhere. All right, I think we're going to try this again. Do we have Bonnie in Scioto County? Bonnie, are you there?
Yes.
Sorry about that. Yes, I can, Bonnie. I'm so very sorry.
All right. My question was about that Obamacare, about having to pay at the first of the year.
Right.
And is it going to happen this year? You do have to pay for it?
Well, I can tell you that there's a lot, about 80% of the costs that are associated with Obamacare, Bonnie, have not even hit yet. And many people are going to get more surprises in the cost of their health care when they find out what they're going to be paying. But rather than try and answer your question without knowing all the details, what I would like for you to do, Bonnie, is to call my office. Here's a number. It's 740-562-4114. And we would like to get your information so that we can look into your particular question and what's going on with your case, because every case is different. That's what makes this law so dadgum unworkable, is that it's affecting every American in a different way, and it's strangling our economy. So I appreciate your question, but I want to give you the right answer. And I need to have you call our office so we can get some detailed information from you in order to do that. Let's go to Roger who has a question, I think, about veterans. Roger, are you there?
Yes, I am, Congressman Johnson, and thank you for taking my question.
Well, you're welcome.
My question is simply a comment. And deciding to vote for you, one thing that certainly put it overboard, I got to see your overall voting record for veterans, and my opinion of it is impeccable. And simply like to state and say that I appreciate that, and thank you.
Well, you're welcome, Roger. I served 26 and a half years in the Air Force, and I'm a veteran myself. I served on the Oversight and Investigation Subcommittee. I was the chairman of that subcommittee in 2011 and 12, and much of what you see happening and coming to light in the news about what's going on in the VA is a result of the oversight and investigation work that my subcommittee did. I am committed, and I will remain committed to taking care of our veterans. There's no segment of our society that is deserving more of a debt of gratitude from the American people, from all of us, than those heroes who put their lives on the line every single day to protect our freedom. So, Roger, thanks so much for bringing that up. Hey, folks, I want to ask you my question again. Here it is. Which political party do you most accurately identify with? On your keypad, on your phone, please press 1 for Republican, press 2 for Democrat, press 3 for Independent. I appreciate that. That kind of just gives me an idea of who we're talking to, and I appreciate that because, after all, we're Americans first. And if we went about our business of running the country with the idea of what's best for all Americans rather than political ideologies, we'd be a lot better off. Let's go talk to Gary. Gary, how are you doing?
Pretty good this evening, Congressman. I appreciate your time and taking my question.
You're welcome.
It's not really a question. I really have a comment with regard to my feelings about President Obama, and the last, especially those couple months with all these difficulties that are coming his way, that he seems to be awfully disconnected from the responsibilities of his office. And I say this because just right after his talk about one of the Americans that was beheaded over there, and an hour and a half later he's out golfing and this, that, and the other. But I see that in the opinion of a lot of people that he feels like he's disconnected. He's not liking the job that he has as president, and it shows in his inaction. And I know as a congressman in the House, you see this probably in more ways than I do. But what's your opinion? Do you think does he like his job? I mean, he seems to be, again, the word disconnected from his responsibilities.
Well, certainly, I think it goes without any question, Gary, that the president has failed to lead. I'm not going to try to second guess the president's motivation for why he does the things that he does. All we can do is evaluate him based on his job performance, and we've seen a consistently stagnant and declining economy. We've seen skyrocketing health insurance and health care costs. We see Americans struggling to pay for to get an education. We see the coal industry being shut down right and left, particularly here in regions like ours that's big coal country. That's very, very damaging. I mean, we've got 3,200 coal miners, and then all the jobs that are associated with the coal industry, some 12 to 15,000 jobs that are dependent upon the coal industry. And so I think you make a good case, Gary, in your assessment that he's not been up for the job. There's a big difference between just sitting in an office and wearing a title and providing leadership. The American people need the president to lead. The world is looking to the president to lead, and he just hasn't done that. You see it across the board, whether it's Vladimir Putin and the Russians on the move in Europe, this ISIL group now lining up with Hamas and Hezbollah and Al-Qaeda to try and bring America down. You see Iran moving closer and closer to a nuclear weapon. There are a host of examples where this president has failed to lead, and that's what I think we have to evaluate him on. His policies have failed America. His policies are killing jobs. His policies are making us more unsafe around the world. And Gary, I think that job performance sort of speaks for itself. So I appreciate you bringing that up. Hey, folks, if you'd like to ask a question, press 0 on your keypad. We'll be able to get you into the question queue, and then we'll get you right back into the call. Let me ask you my question again, for those of you that may have joined us a little bit late. Which political party do you most accurately identify with? On your keypad, please press 1 for Republican, 2 for Democrat, 3 if you consider yourself an independent. And let's go to Mary and see what's on Mary's mind. Mary, how are you this evening?
I'm okay. It's Mary Jane. But I'll tell you what, I really am looking to somebody that can start thinking about how to make everybody work together. I mean, we have been so divided. This country is so divided. How can we get people back in order to start thinking about just our country and not how the separation of our country? You know, whatever it is, however you want to divide it. We're so messed up. How can we do that?
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. I'm not satisfied with the way things have gone in Washington. The partisan bickering and the division that has occurred under President Obama is discouraging, and that's why I've tried to bring a different style of leadership, Mary, to Washington on your behalf. It's not about wearing a title or sitting in an office. If you want responsible leadership out of Washington, you've got to send people there that actually know how to lead. And one of the things that I've done, Mary, is that I've joined a group called the No Labels Group, or the Problem Solvers. And this is a group of Republicans and Democrats that leave their political ideology at the door. And we come around the table and we talk about those areas where we have common ground. Now, do I agree with them on everything? Absolutely not. Am I willing to compromise my principles in order to try and accommodate them? Absolutely not. But I am willing to work with them on issues where we find common ground, and I think that's one of the reasons why I've been able to get 5 pieces of legislation signed into law since you folks hired me to be your representative in January of 2011. I've had 2 bills that help our veterans, 1 bill that reins in the out-of-control EPA, another bill that expands our trauma infrastructure from a healthcare perspective, and then a bill that honors our greatest generation, the veterans who participated in World War II. That bill puts President Roosevelt's D-Day landing prayer called "Let Our Hearts Be Stout," on the World War II Memorial in Washington, D.C. So I've shown a willingness to work across party lines. I've got several pieces of legislation that are working their way through the U.S. House of Representatives right now. For example, the war on coal. Stop the war on coal. That's legislation that I authored. That legislation passed the House not once but twice on a bipartisan basis because I had Democrat support. I've got another bill that's working its way through right now called the Seniors Fairness Act that's designed to replace over $200 billion of funding that came out of Medicare Advantage under the Affordable Care Act. And I want that money put back in there to give our nation's seniors the benefits that they have paid for. You know, it really discourages me when politicians and bureaucrats in Washington refer to Medicare and Social Security as entitlement programs. You know something? My mother's 82 years old, and she her first phone call to me was not to say congratulations. It was to say, how are you going to go about protecting my Social Security and Medicare benefits? Because they're important. I paid for those benefits. And I agree with my mother and the millions of Americans across this country who believe that that is not an entitlement, that it is a benefit that they have paid for, and it's part of their retirement strategy. They can't roll back the clock, and now the federal government needs to stand up and honor those commitments. So I really appreciate, Mary, you bringing that out. I know that was a little bit of a long answer, but it takes a lot of hard work to overcome the partisanship that exists in Washington, D.C., and I'm really trying hard to do that. Hey, folks, let me ask you my poll question again. Which political party do you most accurately identify with? If you're new on the call, please press 1 on your keypad if you're a Republican, 2 if you're a Democrat, 3 if you're an independent. And let's go next and talk to Bonnie. Bonnie, how are you? Bonnie, are you there? Have we still got you?
Yes.
Go ahead with your question, Bonnie.
I was wondering if you are pro-choice or pro-life.
You know something, Bonnie? I believe strongly in the sanctity of human life. I believe that life starts at conception, and I stand firmly on that. You know, I'm a father that got that unfortunate telephone call when my oldest daughter was a senior in high school that she was pregnant, and there were many that tried to get my daughter to have an abortion, and here's what she said to me. She came to me and she asked me my opinion. She said, "Dad, what would you do?" And I said, "Well, first of all, sweetheart, you need to understand that I'm going to love you no matter what you do when this conversation is over, because you're my daughter and nothing changes that. But the reality is that the people that are trying to talk you into having an abortion, they're not going to have to live with that decision. You are. So it's going to be a decision that only you can make." She decided to have the baby, and my oldest grandson, Austin Britton, was born in September of 1996. And Bonnie, I'm sad to say that we lost Austin and his father to an apartment fire in February of 2001. But I am so grateful for the 4 years that I had my grandson. I believe strongly in the sanctity of human life, and I'm pro-life. I'm endorsed by the Ohio Right to Life, as well as the National Right to Life. So hope that answers your question. Hey, folks, I'm going to ask you another question right now. We're going to switch over and ask another question. What method do you plan to use to vote in the November 4th election? Do you plan to vote absentee by mail? If so, press 1. Do you plan to early vote at your county board of elections? If so, press 2. Do you plan to vote in person at your polling place on election day? If so, press 3. And if you do not plan to vote at all in the November 4th election, press 4. And I hope that you vote, because your voice does make a difference. Your vote does count. So I hope that you'll go to the polls and vote by one of those methods, if at all possible. Let's go to our next caller. By the way, if you would like to ask a question, folks, just press 0 on your keypad. It'll put you right into the call. And we're going to go talk to Richard right now. Richard, how you doing?
I'm doing fine, thank you.
What's on your mind this evening, Richard?
Okay. Right now, I have an Ohio concealed carry permit, and I carry a pistol all the time.
Right.
If I go to West Virginia, I'm okay, because they have a reciprocal agreement. But if I go to Pennsylvania, I'm breaking the law. Now, what are you doing to pass a nationwide concealed carry permit?
Well, Richard, that's an easy question, because I have supported the legislation for nationwide reciprocity. I'm a concealed carry just like you are. Both my wife and I are. I am a strong defender of our Second Amendment rights. I believe the Constitution means exactly what it says, that our constitutional right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. And so I support reciprocity from state to state, and I have supported the legislation that would get us there. But unfortunately, you know that legislation has to pass both houses or both chambers of Congress, Richard, and this is not going to get through with Harry Reid sitting in charge of the Senate. So, but I support it. And I will continue to do so. Let me ask you my question again, folks. What method do you plan to use to vote in the November 4th election? Press 1 on your keypad if you're going to vote absentee by mail. Press 2 on your telephone keypad if you're going to vote early at your county board of elections. Press 3 on your keypad if you're going to vote in person at your polling location on election day. And press 4 if you do not plan to vote. And if you're one of those folks, I really urge you to change your mind. Get registered to vote, because your vote does count. Let's go talk to Greg. Greg, how are you, buddy?
I'm real good, thank you, Congressman.
What's on your mind this evening?
Well, I've really been a little bit disturbed with the way the Republican Party has kind of set back on his laurels in some areas, and in other areas, like you've suggested tonight, that you've been behind. It's been, exactly what we're looking for out here. But in the long run, it just appears to me that we're, as a Republican Party, don't have the backbone to do what needs to be done totally. The Democrats seem to be holding us up for everything that goes wrong in the world, and they do everything that's right, which isn't true. I mean, what can I do as an individual to help get that attitude changed?
Well, Greg, that is a very, very good question, and that brings me back to what I just said to the previous caller, or rather when I asked my polling question about voting on November 4th. First of all, I trust that you're registered to vote, and from the sound of things, it sounds like that you are. The second thing is, let your voice be heard, Greg. Write letters to the editor. Communicate with your community through your local newspaper. Let your voice be heard, because your opinion on these matters really, really do count. And the sad part about it is, Greg, is that elections really do have consequences. And right now we've got a president and a majority leader in the United States Senate that are more concerned about political ideology than about getting the job done. And I wish I could tell you, Greg, that we could snap our fingers in the Republican-led House and make things happen. Unfortunately, our Constitution, which is, by the way, the only oath that I swore to when I was elected on your behalf, is to support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. That is my first and foremost responsibility, and our Constitution does not allow the House of Representatives to work unilaterally, no more than it allows the chief executive or the Senate to work unilaterally. Now, the president has tried, and he has certainly done some things that are questionable. That's why we have the lawsuit that's working its way through the courts right now. It'll take some time for that because nothing moves fast in the justice system. You folks are well acquainted with that, I'm sure. But it goes back to, Greg, if we want responsible leadership out of Washington, we got to send responsible people there. And one person cannot turn it around by themselves. It's going to take all Americans working together, recognizing that if we put America first, if we are an American first, before we're a Republican, before we're a Democrat, we'll make right decisions. That's what I'm trying to change in Washington, D.C., and I think I've seen some success with some of the bills that I've actually had passed into law. But we've got a long way to go. We've got a long way to go, and we have a moral obligation to our children and our grandchildren to continue the fight to lower the debt, to get our deficit under control, to balance the budget and force Washington to live within its means, to provide for our seniors the benefits that they have earned in Social Security and Medicare, care for our veterans who put it on the line day in and day out, and force agencies like the EPA to stop killing jobs, and force agencies like the IRS from picking winners and losers and choosing who they're going to hammer and who they're not. That's not the role of the federal government, and that's what I'm fighting for on your behalf, Greg. I know it's discouraging sometimes, but let me leave you with this thought, Greg. If you look back at America's history, there are many, many, many more examples of America picking ourselves up by our bootstraps and overcoming seemingly insurmountable odds in order to grab victory from the jaws of defeat. We've done it time and time and time again, and that's what makes America unique. We will get through this. We will do better. We must do better. And if we all work together, Greg, I know that we'll get there. I appreciate that question so very much. Hey, folks, let me ask you my question again. How do you plan to vote in the November 4th election? What method do you plan to use? Press 1 on your keypad if you're going to vote absentee by mail. Press 2 if you're going to early vote at your county board of education, county board of elections. Press 3 if you're going to vote in person on your on election day at your polling place, and press 4 if you don't plan to vote. I sure hope you'll change your mind if you're a number 4 person. Let's go to James and get his question. And, oh, by the way, if you have a question, just press 0 on your keypad. It'll put you into the question queue. James, what's going on?
Hi, Congressman. This is James Heron. I got a statement. It's and a question. The statement is I live with a veteran. I live in Southern Ohio, Oak Hill, Ohio. And I got a 28-year veteran, 29-year veteran, Navy veteran from Vietnam to Afghanistan to Iraq that lives here. And he's seen all kinds of conflicts. And his question is, and my question is, that he agrees that we should put some boots on the ground and Syria, and we are the boots on the ground here, and I don't know why Obama's not trying to put boots on the ground. My buddy's seen a lot of guys die in his lifetime, and we need to do something about the situation in Syria. Is there anything we can do about it? That's my question.
Well, I can tell you that what we heard from the president a few weeks ago, as far as a strategy goes, that is far from a strategy. In fact, I'm glad the president didn't lay out the strategy on national television, because you don't tell your enemy when you're coming and when you're going and how you're going to go about defeating him. That's not the way you win conflicts. Look, the president has asked for the ability to train the Syrian opposition forces. That's really all he's asked Congress for. And I can tell you that I agree with you that this is a serious threat to the human race. It is a scourge on the civilized world. This ISIL group, the Islamic State of Iraq and the Levant, must be stopped in its tracks, and America is the only nation that has the capability and the intestinal fortitude to bring the overwhelming force necessary to do that. I read an article. I saw an article, I believe it was on the front page of the Wall Street Journal today. It said that the air campaign has affected ISIL, but it has not removed them from any territory. And to do that, it's going to take boots on the ground. And it needs to be a coalition force. The international community needs to come together and provide the force that's necessary to do this, but it needs to be American-led. We're the only ones that know how to do this. But we're either going to stop this group now, or we're going to pay a big price down the road, because we've seen their brutality. Their ideology is not consistent with civilized life, and we must stop them. So I want the president to listen to our military commanders, and I want our military commanders to tell the president what they need to be able to address this threat. And I want the president to go to our allies and the international community around the world and say, look, it's time to stop talking. It's time to start doing. Let's work together and let's rid the planet of this type of brutal ideology. So we'll see what the president does, but I'm not convinced that this president knows how to lead an operation in a situation like this, and that's very, very disconcerting. Hey, folks, if you want to ask a question, press 0 to get into the question queue, and we're going to go to Randy Smith right now down in Meigs County. Hi, Randy.
Hi, Congressman. How are you?
I'm doing good, buddy. How are you?
I'm really good. Sorry I missed you Friday. I had a meeting in Lancaster ahead of time, so I couldn't make that.
That's all right. We missed you as well, so I hope all is doing well. There's some good things going on there in Meigs County. We were there, looking at that the renovation of that housing project there with the low income tax credit money, and that's a real success story for Meigs County.
I think that's why I wanted to hang on the line. This is the first time I've ever received a call like this from any candidate in any race, and having some experience working with you and working with your office, I definitely wanted to jump on board. I don't really have a question. As awesome as your office is with our office, we get questions answered all the time, but I listen to a lot of the other questions, and certainly I think anybody that has any kind of relationship with their congressman knows that they're busy in Washington, obviously, at this day and age. But I wanted to give just a quick comment and perspective from what goes on in the local government and how we depend so greatly on our representation to Washington. And that was one of the biggest nerve-wracking things when I first took office, and we were faced with, we get a lot of the same calls you get, and a lot of times they start on the local level, and just the idea that, well, I'm going to have to pick up the phone and call a U.S. congressman's office to try to remedy this situation. And, it just was kind of an intimidating thing to take on when I first got elected on the local level. But your office has just been fantastic, sir, and your hands-on approach to all the issues that we faced here in Meigs County makes our job a whole lot easier, puts us in a position to have good information to pass on to our constituents and work as a team. So I just wanted to thank you for that, making my job a little bit easier, and let the folks know that are listening in that not only are you fighting a battle in Washington on these big situations, Obamacare, Syria, those types of things, but you're always there to handle issues that impact us on the local level, and we certainly appreciate you in Meigs County.
Well, Randy, thanks for those kind words. I appreciate that very much. Like I said at the outset of this call, I work for you folks. It's not the other way around. My job is to try and break down barriers, to try and bring job-creating policies to our country, to our region, help businesses be able to grow and hire and expand. Those are the kinds of things that we're trying to do. And Randy, you tell the other commissioners there, Mike Bartram, Tim Ely, your team there in Meigs County, if you guys have any issues, to pick up the telephone and call us. If there's anything at all we can do, we'll be glad to help do that. I really appreciate your comments. Folks, let's go to our next caller. I think we're going to talk to Jackie. Jackie, how are you?
How are you?
I'm doing very well, thanks.
My question is, who do you hope will be running for president, and what do you think about Mike Huckabee?
I don't know that much about Mr. Huckabee, former governor of Arkansas, Mike Huckabee, personally. I've met him a few times, but we've never sat down and had many in-depth conversations. But I can tell you that any leadership that we would get would be better than the lack of leadership that we've got right now. But that's a general statement. So let me tell you what I think that we need, Jackie. I get this question a lot. People ask me, who are the Republicans going to put up as a nominee, and who do you think the next president is going to be? Well, I don't know the answer to that question, because that ultimately will be decided by you folks, by the voters. That's the way our system works. But I can tell you the type of president that I believe that we need. The type of president that we need is a president that will put his mental energy, a strong mind, with a father's heart and a strong backbone. Heart, mind, and a strong backbone, all three of those things coming to play to make the kinds of tough decisions that must be made to get America back to work, to make America more energy independent, to get our healthcare system back on the right track, and to reassert America's place as a leader on the global stage. I don't know who that's going to be, Jackie, but that's the kind of president that I believe we need. And it's going to take a leader that can make those very, very tough decisions, the kind of decisions that American families are having to make every single day. How do we make ends meet until the end of the month? How are we going to tighten our belt? How are we going to provide that college education? What are we going to do about changing the tires on the car? Those are the kinds of things, and pretty soon here, how are we going to pay all of our bills when our grocery bill is going up, our gas at the pump is more expensive, our health care costs are going up, and now we're going to be paying more for energy to heat and cool our homes. So there are a lot of tough decisions to be made, Jackie, and the kind of president that we need is a person who has had to make those kinds of decisions in their own life, someone who has lived the American dream, walked the walk alongside of the American people, and understands what it means to do without and to have to work hard to make ends meet. That's the kind of person that I believe that we need in the White House. I hope and pray that that's the kind of person that we get. So I appreciate your asking that question. Hey, let me ask you my question one more time. What method do you plan to use to vote in the November 4th election? Press 1 if you plan to vote by absentee ballot. Press 2 if you plan to vote early at your county board of elections. Press 3 on your keypad if you plan to vote in person at your polling location on election day. Or press 4 if you plan to not vote at all. As a citizen, as an American, I want you to know that your vote counts. And I certainly hope that if you're one of the ones that pressed number 4, that you'll reconsider, because your vote, your voice does matter. If we want responsible leaders in Washington, we have to send responsible leaders to work there. And that's why it's so important that you vote. Hey, folks, we have run out of time. And again, I apologize to those of you that had to sit through our technical problems a little earlier. I want to thank everyone for joining us this evening. I thought we had a great discussion. I appreciate all the questions and the feedback. If you didn't get a chance to ask your question and you want to leave a voicemail, please stay on the line and you'll be able to do that, and we will get you an answer back. You can also find out more information about where I stand on the various issues out on my website at www.billjohnsonleads.com, or you can give us a call directly at 740-562-4114. And if you're internet savvy and you use the internet, you can follow me on Facebook at facebook.com/BillJohnsonLeads, or you can follow me on Twitter at JohnsonLeads. Folks, thanks so much for listening this evening. God bless each and every one of you. Remember, I work for you. It's not the other way around. If you've got questions for me, either email me or send me that information via Facebook, or call the number that I gave you, 740. Let me read it off to you one more time, 740-562-4114, and we'll be glad to get you an answer. God bless you. Have a great evening, and God bless the United States of America. Good night.